Today on Across the Fence, protecting you and your family from fire. We'll learn what it means to pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep, and how those simple steps can be the difference between life and death. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. A fire extinguisher is an important and fairly simple device to use. In fact, it's so simple that you probably don't think that any training is required. But before you reach for that fire extinguisher in an actual emergency, it is a good idea to know the basics. So we're going to begin today's program. We've called on an expert to demonstrate the proper use.
Hi, I'm John Marcus, the Fire Marshal at the University of Vermont. I'm a certified fire protection specialist, and I was a full-time firefighter for 21 years. Today I'm going to demonstrate the proper use of a portable fire extinguisher. Before I actually demonstrate the extinguisher, there are a few things that I need to tell you. Whenever there's a fire, you need to call for help first. Even if you think you can extinguish the fire, call for help, notify occupants in the area, pull the building fire alarm, call your emergency number to make sure that the fire department is on the way. Then you can attempt to fight the fire. A portable fire extinguisher is only for small fires. It will not put out a room full of fire. It's for fires in the incipient stage, a cardboard box, a recycling bin, a trash can, something small that is not spread to other objects in the room. You also need to be sure to leave yourself a safe way out before you use the extinguisher. Make sure that you have a clear exit available just in case things don't go as planned. There are different types of fire extinguishers. Be familiar with the fire extinguishers in your area. There are several classes of fire. A Class A fire is ordinary combustibles such as wood, paper, textiles, cardboard. Class B fires are flammable liquids or solvents, such as fuels, gasoline, oils. Class C fires involve energized electrical equipment, basically anything that is plugged into a power source. And Class D fires are flammable metals or combustible metals. These are fairly rare, but they are found in manufacturing and in chemical laboratories. Class K fires are kitchen fires, which involve deep frying of grease. And now we're ready to talk about how to use the fire extinguisher. There are 4 steps involved in using the fire extinguisher, and we use 4 letters to remember them. We use the letters PASS, P-A-S-S. The P is for pull. You need to pull this safety pin out before the fire extinguisher will operate. The A is for aim. You remove the nozzle and aim at the base of the flames. You must aim at the base of the fire. If you aim at the flames, the extinguishing agent will pass through the flames and land harmlessly on the other side. The first S is for squeeze. You squeeze the handles together to discharge the agent. And the last S is for sweep. You sweep from side to side until the fire is completely out. P-A-S-S. In this demonstration, we will be using water to extinguish the fire. Typically, multi-purpose fire extinguishers have a dry chemical agent, which comes out in a fine powder much like water. And now we're ready to do the demonstration. And that's how to safely and effectively use a fire extinguisher.
Fire extinguisher is just one tool in fighting a fire. We're going to learn about another important tool in fire protection. And joining me are 2 guests. I want to welcome Troy Dare of the Vermont Rural Fire Protection Task Force. Also with me is George Cook, a longtime volunteer firefighter and a farm safety specialist with the UVM Extension. Thanks so much for both of us for being with us. So we're going to show a picture of something that's called a dry hydrant. And Troy, what is a dry hydrant?
A dry hydrant is a conduit system that is installed so the fire department can draft water quicker, easier, and safer for fire protection. It can be thought of as a large straw, really, as how it functions. And so
tell me, so it usually is with a pond or a body of water, is that right?
Yes.
And so how does it work?
Well, once the system is installed, the fire department can easily pull up with a length of suction hose, draft water from the site, and it's that simple.
And they're quick?
Yes.
which is why they're so important.
Yes, in fire situations, time is everything. Fires grow exponentially, so the quicker you get water on the fire, the less damage it can do.
And what does it take to install a dry hydrant?
Hydrants are relatively easy to install. The simple generic hydrant can be installed in a day's work. The expense is usually between $3,000 and $4,000 depending on the site. Some more elaborate stream installs, river installs that have steel intakes and things like that can be relatively more expensive and a little harder to get installed.
And how is it decided where these are put?
Well, strategically, they're placed where there's the biggest fire load. Of course, if you need the water to be able to do that. But in general, wherever you can get them, is best.
Are there financial benefits to a community once the hydrant's been put into service?
Homeowners and commercial property can see insurance benefits. That's based on insurance policy, things like that. But in the end, yes, you can see a reduction in insurance rates, premiums, and also there's peace of mind knowing that the fire department can access water in a fire situation.
I know that's something that you're very well familiar with.
Oh yes, and we absolutely love the dry hydrants. In a rural department, we don't have pressurized hydrants as we would see in a municipality, so we are dependent upon either tanking water in ourselves and neighboring departments, and while we're doing that, we're seeking out the closest water source that we can draw from, and these dry hydrants are, as Troy says, they're quick, they're easy, they're especially beneficial in the wintertime because you're not chopping through maybe 2 feet of ice.
Right, exactly. And is there a maintenance piece to the dry hydrant system?
There's a simple maintenance of keeping the PVC painted, keep making sure it's plowed out in the wintertime, making sure the intake is free of debris,
yeah, right now we're taking a look at the hard way to fight a fire, which is to actually chop holes in the ice.
Yes.
Yes, and that can take a considerable amount of time. You can easily expend 10 minutes or so just getting through 2 feet of ice to get to the water. And if it's totally frozen over, sometimes you actually have to cut a vent hole, another location in the pond, because it's like sucking out of a Coke bottle.
Exactly. And so you were talking a little bit about the maintenance, and I guess it depends on where these are located.
Yeah, stream and river installations are usually in general higher maintenance and more problematic really due to fluctuating water levels and things like that. The simple pond site is less maintenance and really more reliable.
And so are there programs that help with the cost?
Yes, for the last 15 years I've been the engineering technician for the Dry Hydrant Grant Program, which is a program that's funded by Vermont legislature funding to help with the cost of installation of dry hydrants throughout the state. And
so what's the first step if if the municipality decides this is what they want to do?
Well, it really starts with assessing the town resources, where these fire ponds are, where you can access the streams and rivers, and then working with the fire department really is the first step to access grant money and strategically plan for the placement of dry hydrants.
And is it possible for a town or a municipality or community to decide they want to actually build a pond?
Yes, one of the best times, actually the best time, is when a homeowner is building a pond to put a dry hydrant in. It's the most effective and easiest way to make sure that the hydrant goes in correct. And
so what should people do if they want more information about the grant program?
Well, you could give me a call at the number shown on the screen there, and email me at the email address, and I can fill you in on what you have for resources, what it would take to get a dry hydrant in as far as permitting, things like that. That's the best place to start.
And so now with the cold weather comes, of course, the heating season, and that increases the chance of fire. And George, what are some of the steps that we should be making sure that we're taking to prevent fire?
Well, certainly at this time of the year we should be cleaning our chimneys or having them cleaned if we're not trained to do that and have the proper gear. Hire a professional chimney sweep to come and get things cleaned. Checking all the joints of the stovepipe, making sure that you don't have old stovepipe that sometimes gets pretty paper thin. So if it's been in a while, replace it. Checking the chimney, make sure that the chimney is sound. If not, have a brick mason that can come and take care of that. Remembering that debris around the house, around where your wood supply is, around the heating source, the stove, the fireplace. Keep things clear so that there's nothing nearby that could catch that you don't want to have ignite. And certainly all of our stoves, our fireplaces should have a protected hearth, floorboard. There's insulation board, fireproof insulation board that we can have underneath the stove, and especially outside of the area where we're going to be opening the door and filling it with fresh firewood.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned something earlier that I thought was interesting. You said, hire a professional. Someone who does this for a living, someone who knows what they're looking
Yes.
at. This is not a place to cut corners.
No, this is a situation where we're depending on that wood stove or wood furnace to heat our home for the winter, and this is something that needs to be done early on so that as we head into the colder weather, things are all set and ready, and you have someone that knows what they are doing. They have the right tools, and they know how to get up onto your roof safely and do this work also.
I think the biggest thing that I remember about, having it professionally done is nothing good ever comes from a story that starts, I was up on my roof.
This is true.
Now, a lot of people heat with wood, whether it's stove or a wood furnace. What safety tips should people be thinking about when it comes to wood?
Well, our wood supply we want to have available. I'd like to have a year's supply of firewood. I mean, this shot we see here now, I mean, this firewood came early on. It was cut, split, stacked in the sun, and allowed to cure, to season for a good amount of time. A year is not too much. And then as you move into the heating season, get it in under cover, in a woodshed so that it's going to stay dry, and this is going to reduce the amount of creosote and so forth that the stove would create. That'll collect on chimneys, and that increases the chance of a chimney fire. Certainly with stoves and fireplaces, have a guard around it as you can so as to make sure it's safe for youngsters, for pets. Never allow toys and chairs and other items up too close to the heat source, because it's just a fire waiting to happen.
Exactly. We had a problem with one of our dogs trying to sleep underneath it. So that was, you could pull him out by his legs so that he wouldn't get too close.
Yes, yeah, you could smell the hair singeing. And certainly during the winter time, we like to take advantage of clothes dryers that we don't have to put into the electric clothes dryer. And people will put up clothes racks, sometimes too close to a stove or a furnace. So give them their space, minimum of 3 foot of space away from the stove or furnace, and keep an eye on it. I would not want to leave a clothes rack up close to a stove and then go off. If I'm leaving the house, then that's going to be backed away, and
that's one of the things you should check when you leave, is make sure everything's away from
absolutely
a working stove.
Absolutely, make sure everything is shut down.
Yeah. What about wood pellets?
Wood pellets are something fairly new that many folks are looking at. Wood pellets are very efficient. Whereas a wood stove will burn at 60 to 75% efficiency, a pellet stove today can burn at 75 to 85% efficient. They're easy to use. As we see, you can hold a handful of wood pellets. They come in 20 to 40 pound bags. Very user friendly, and there's a hopper in the top of the unit that you simply fill, and automatically, as it is needed, it will feed the pellets into the burning area of the pellet stove or furnace. But they do definitely need to be vented to the outside. Again, installed by someone that knows what they're doing, is trained to put these in safely. And while they don't need as large a chimney as a wood stove, they definitely need to be vented and properly vented to the outside through proper piping, and if it's not out through a wall into an actual chimney, then there have to be special considerations taken to install that safely.
And it's really important for people to do their research behind these different systems to figure out what's going to work best for their house, not to just go buy a stove and then think they can install it.
That's right. Do your paperwork ahead of time. Do this research. Talk with several different suppliers. And certainly service is one of those pieces that no matter what we buy, that's a equally important consideration. The best deal may not be the best deal when it goes down and it's cold outside and you don't have someone that can come and fix it.
Now, Troy, once again, if people are interested in information about dry hydrants, what should they do?
They should give me a call. Send me an email, and I can fill them in with whatever information they need.
Great. Well, I feel much better now heading into the heating season. One quick question for
Yes.
you. Where should you keep your fire extinguishers?
You keep your fire extinguishers where they can be easily seen. Near a exit actually is a good place, because I like to have the extinguisher located so that if I need it, I can use it on whatever it is burning, but I can also identify my exit and escape to a safe area at the same time.
Well, thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.
For a video copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-ATF-3430. Across the Fence is brought to you as a public service by University of Vermont Extension and WCAX-TV.